Hi everybody, happy Tuesday. I haven't shared a new post in quite a while. I guess a large part of what I needed to say was off my heart and off my brain, and thoughts and feelings I had needed to express that I wasn't even aware of or out there in the world. But today, times there are changing, and I wanted to talk a little bit about that. Maybe process my feelings on it. So if you watched episode 12 of this series, I Love My Doctor, My Doctor Loves Me, you know that I go to Montefiore Medical Center in the Bronx, New York, and their headache clinic. And that is where I found the answers to questions I didn't even know I had, understood my illness, learned ultimately how to treat it and manage it, and be able to sit here in front of you guys and talk about it. So, well, not eloquently at the moment, but be able to share my story that I'm on the other side of my journey. I went to Montefiore the first time November 2011, coming off a period where I had the same migraine for 25 straight days. That is my personal best. It was nonstop. It was 24 hours a day. And it just wouldn't break. And that's not because I didn't try. It's not because I wasn't taking medication. It's just because it was. And when I first went to visit Montefiore, I was in these buildings on Blondell Avenue. And I used to call it the Emerald City because a lot of the buildings in that area were all of this like greenish glass on the outside. I don't know building material talk. And the first office that I used to go see my doctor in was this really... It was a 2-floor building, and I used to get incredibly anxious before every visit. Usually ended either cried going to and from, or just guaranteed on the way out. As a release, as a nervous condition, pain, it was a place I dreaded. And I think it was because of where I was in my migraine journey. I had no idea how long it would take to get better, if I could get better, but I couldn't even really wrap my head around any of those feelings or thoughts. It was just, I was in so much pain and I was so overwhelmed with emotion that I couldn't even actually process what it was that I was feeling. And I was going there because I knew I needed help. But I was in such despair that, like, now when something happens or you go to the doctor, or for instance, I pulled, slightly torn a ligament in my foot at the gym a couple of weeks ago. And I know it's not the same thing, and the magnitude of the pain isn't different, and my life is different. But just how I approach doctors in general, and the research and finding one and all that stuff now is just so different because I'm on the other side of this journey, because of what having chronic migraines has taught me. But it was a miracle that I found my doctor. You really need to watch episode 12. And though I didn't know it then, I put all my eggs in one basket. And lucky for me, it was the right basket. So I used to go to this building. It was only 2 stories. There was a fucking twitchy light in the lobby every time I went. Twitchy lights are a no-no for migraine patients. And the office the actual office was hot, and the lights were twitching there also. And it was a small, cramped place. And for a while I was there, maybe, I don't even know if I went there to that particular building a whole year. Maybe. I'm not really positive. Maybe a year, maybe more or less. I had anxiety every time I pulled up to that building, or I knew I had to go. It was a pit in the bottom of my stomach. So when they moved to their new medical complex, which is like down the block, it's just 2 giant buildings, towers technically, and each floor is a different specialty, like hearts, stomachs, the whole bit. Number 8, Tower 2, is the headache clinic. And just really from the first time I ever pulled up there, I just had a better feeling about it. You just get a vibe of something. There was valet parking, and it was kind of crazy complex, but when you walk into the lobby, it was bright and shiny. There were bathrooms everywhere. People help you. Very, very friendly, always. And when you get up to the 8th floor, the hall divides to pain management or the headache clinic. And as soon as you get to the headache clinic, this will never stop being my favorite thing. There's a giant sign that says Quiet Zone. And once you open those doors, the bright fluorescent lighting of the hallway disappears. It is dark, not pitch black, dark, and cold. Now, as a chronic migraine patient, those are my two favorite feelings in the entire world, like a cave, because it's the only thing that ever made me feel comfortable. Even to this day, when I don't feel good, I have to turn up the AC. I have to make myself cold. Even if I don't physically feel like being cold, my head or stomach or whatever is going bananas really calms down then. That's how I always know I'm feeling sick. As soon as I start to get a hot flash of some kind, something is going wrong. And to walk into that nice, cold building where everybody's quiet, there are no fragrances allowed. So if you're covered in perfume, you're not allowed in that room. Again, triggers. There were lounges, though I never used them, if you needed to go lie down. Staff was always very friendly, very, very good to me. But it was just a calming place. It was my sanctuary. It was the one place in this world where I continuously felt like I was with my people, even if there was nobody else in the lobby, or the people there working there didn't suffer. It was just a place where I felt I was understood. And it was a headache clinic. They diagnosed all different kinds of headache disorders. There are a number of them. And so it wasn't just a neurologist. It wasn't just a doctor. It wasn't just for management. There's somebody that even though the doctors maybe didn't have what you had, they had studied it and were so focused on dealing with patients like you that maybe you weren't the sickest person they saw that day. And just something about being there always made me feel good. Always. From that point on, until every time I went, which eventually, it used to be once a month because I was doing so poorly, but as I was more successful in treatments and started using Botox, I would go every 3 months for my Botox shots and follow-up and whatever. And even though sometimes things got mangled and I went all the way to the Bronx from Brooklyn and couldn't get my Botox shots because the insurance fucked it up or whatever it was, and it wasn't to say that there were never stressful times or I was never in pain or, whatever, I still felt calm there. It's a sense of peace. When I close my eyes, I can just feel what it felt like in that room. And I don't feel that anywhere else. Not even in my own home or in my own room necessarily. Not because those places bring me comfort. It's just different level of comfort. It's hard to live in a world where noises and sounds and smells, something that affects your disease every day that you can't control. Even when you are at home, unless you live alone maybe. If you live with people, you're constantly wanting to point out the things that they're doing that are going to trigger your head so that they could stop doing that. And you wish they would remember on their own, but everyone is human, and maybe because it doesn't affect them the way that it affects you, they don't get it. I always feel like I'm complaining when I ask for something, but it's just how it is. But at Montefiore, I never had to ask. In their headache clinic, it was just known. These were the rules. And I just loved that so much. So my last Botox appointment was, July, the end of July. This is how bad I am at math. I go back at the end of October for my shots. My doctor walked in and had this look of despair on her face. It looked like somebody shot her dog in front of her. Oh, what's the matter? Who's dead, right? She said, I have some news for you, but it's going to be okay. What the fuck does that mean? Her and I have this ongoing, well, I say it, I don't know if it's a joke, but she may have thought I was kidding. I wasn't. Wherever you go, I follow. You move to Pennsylvania, I move to Pennsylvania. You move to Florida, I move to Florida. You quit being a doctor, I'm going to be in your guest bedroom just because. So after 8 long years, turns out, I didn't even know this at the time, but during this conversation I learned she had started her residency right before she started seeing me as a patient in November 2011. So all of a sudden it just sort of like we kind of grew together, She was a new doctor. Our relationship had forged over my pain and getting me to the other side of it, and she had grown into herself as a doctor there. So it's a very special place for me. But she had decided to take a new position at a hospital that's got a lot of prestige and is about a half hour further drive from me, but I could care less. She already knew that they took my insurance. Thank God, thank God, thank God, thank God. And I was sort of stunned. So she wanted to let me know that by my next Botox appointment, I would be seeing her there if I so chose to follow her, which was a no-brainer. I asked her if anybody had broke down crying, because I was sort of like still in my shock mode and wanted my needles and get the hell out of there. And she said, yeah. And I was sort of kidding, but she was saying that there are new patients, they're making a treatment plan, and I remember all those beginning steps, and she said that, I had to tell them, because the next time they want to make an appointment with me, I might not be here. And it's their choice to follow or stay, of course. But I don't even know where I would be without her. So it's not even a question. The reason I bring all this up is because I needed to go pick up my medical records and have them sent to our new facility, and all the bureaucracy that goes along with changing anything in with your health insurance that affects your health insurance in this day and age. And so I had to go back to Montefiore, I guess about a month or so ago, and fill out the paperwork that's necessary to make all that happen. And when I went back in there, I was going to a different place. I wasn't going to the headache clinic, although I did pop up to get my parking validated. It made me sad. I took pictures, as I always do, but I felt very emotional. I felt very emotional the last time I went for Botox there, just because I had anxiety about anything changing, right? We don't like change. And with something so important and so core to who I am and where I am now, where I'm going in my life, my health, this part of my health, because of my past with it, made me nervous, even though she'll be there. And I know that it's her, right? It's like that, your house, it's the people in your house that make it a home, right? It's not the structure, it's not where it's located. It's the people, it's the feelings that you have. And that's how I feel about Montefiore. It was my home for a long time. But without her there, it wouldn't be the same. I don't trust anybody else to give me botulism injections into my head and neck. I don't trust anybody else if there was to be a stumble on my path going forward. She knows my history literally from the beginning. To have to start all over with somebody brand new is like unfathomable to me. Unfathomable, because they won't know me. They didn't know me sick. That well. Very few people do. And so there's just no way I could do it without her. But her new facility, it's not a headache clinic. It's just a regular hospital. It's a neurology department. I don't know if she's going there to start a headache clinic, or I have a slew of other questions I'll ask when I get to see her in a couple of weeks. But even that short, there would be a little bit of a different time delay between leaving Montefiore and going to a new position. So it was like 2 weeks where I couldn't email her or call her if I had to. And that made me incredibly anxious because she was always there. You know what I mean? I always knew that if I asked a question or sent an email or whatever it was, that she would get back to me with calming, good advice. And it was weird. Going to a new place, I know it won't be my sanctuary. Even though I'll get my relief and I'll get my Botox and I'll get to see my, doctor, confidant, therapist, whatever. All the things that she embodies to me, it won't be the same. And that makes me sad. It makes me want to sort of go back and just visit the headache clinic and hang out in the waiting room. But I won't. I don't think. And it's just really hard. Change is really hard. And I just don't know what new chapter this has begun for me. So this is going to be my next chapter. It's further proof of how far I've come. Not because she's changing jobs, but it's just another step down that road. And I don't know what the future is going to bring. I don't know what it's going to bring in terms of my migraines or my chronic migraine life. And it just makes me feel a certain type of way. I hope that it's a good thing, and I hope that she's able to come in contact with a lot of other people and help them. I still urge a lot of people to go to Montefiore's Headache Clinic. It's one of the top headache clinics that are even in existence in the tri-state area. So my doctor might not be there, but there are a slew of other people there, and it's just, in the very beginning, it's the process, I think, that you need to go to a proper headache clinic to go through all the steps that you need to get the answers that you're looking for, and ultimately the health. So, while this is a bittersweet moment for me, I'm happy for her. She's worked really hard, and I know that she's an incredible person, and I'm just blessed, beyond blessed 1,000 times. Thank you, God, that I get to see her still. So, I'll report back after my next visit and let you know what it is like in this next step in my chronic migraine life.